The wet streets of central Mexico City shimmered beneath the warm glow of the lights, as Mariana Lopez pulled her weary feet along after yet another exhausting double shift at the hospital. Her tattered sneakers splashed through the puddles, her mind heavy with the looming stack of bills waiting for her at home. At 28, she had always dreamed of being a nurse, yet the relentless shifts and meager salary barely covered the costs of the small apartment she shared with her cat, Misha. It was 11:40 p.m. when he chose to navigate the familiar alley, the one that led directly to his street. Their footsteps reverberated off the tight confines of the walls, intertwining with the relentless drip of a leaky pipe and the faint, plaintive meowing of a wandering cat. At that moment, he caught a faint, barely audible moan drifting from the depths of the alley. Her instinct as a caregiver kicked in immediately. Even though trepidation gripped her as she faced the shadows ahead, Mariana retrieved her cell phone flashlight and proceeded with careful steps. The shaft of light unveiled a sight that rendered her motionless. A gentleman clad in an elegant suit lay sprawled on the ground, a crimson stain seeping from a wound at his side. The lavish watch on his wrist and the tailored suit he wore stood in stark opposition to the crimson pool that spread beneath him. Without a moment's hesitation, Mariana knelt beside him. With a deftness born of experience, he instinctively pressed his scarf against the wound, all the while using his other hand to dial for help. The man, on the verge of losing consciousness, possessed a face that would undoubtedly grace the covers of business magazines. With polished features and meticulously styled hair, now dampened by perspiration, he bore a look of distress that rendered him unexpectedly fragile. "Please, stay calm, sir. Help is on the way," Mariana whispered, applying steady pressure to the wound. The man slightly parted his eyelids, his deep gaze locking onto hers. In that glance, a blend of appreciation and intrigue sparked a flutter in Mariana's chest. In the distance, the wail of sirens started to pierce the air. Before the paramedics whisked him away, the man opened his eyes once more, as if he sought to etch the visage of his rescuer into his memory. Mariana lingered in the alley, her gaze fixed on the ambulance as it disappeared into the night, unaware that in that moment, she had not only preserved a life but also irrevocably altered the trajectory of her own existence. The following morning arrived with the thunderous buzz of headlines across every channel. Mariana, having scarcely caught a few hours of sleep, sat frozen in front of the television in the nurse's room as the presenter detailed the unfolding events. Last night, in the heart of the city, an attack occurred involving Leonardo Santa Cruz, the CEO of Construcciones Santa Cruz and a prominent figure in Mexico's business landscape. Reliable sources indicate that he is in stable condition, thanks to the prompt assistance of a bystander who came to his aid. The visuals depicted the exterior of Angeles Hospital, where news helicopters documented the constant flow of security personnel and individuals in formal attire coming in and out of the establishment. Mariana experienced a shiver coursing through her as she identified the man in the images. It was the identical one he had discovered in the alley. "Is everything all right, Mari?" inquired Carmen, one of her friends, observing her bewildered look. "Yes, it's just that. I was the one who discovered it last night," Mariana replied softly, her gaze fixed on the screen. The news raced through the hospital with astonishing speed. On the intensive care floor, Leonardo Santa Cruz stirred awake, a singular thought occupying his mind, to seek out the woman who had rescued him from the brink of death. "Mariana, I require you to locate her," he commanded his security chief from the confines of the hospital bed. His voice, though faint, carried the commanding resonance that had forged his dominion. "The nurse in the alley, I must uncover her identity." A few streets away, Mariana struggled to focus on her patients, as the inquisitive stares of her colleagues trailed her through the corridors. Whispers of the reward that Santa Cruz might present were already making their way through the hospital. "Did you catch a glimpse of his wealth?" one of the assistants murmured, displaying a business magazine on her cell phone. His firm constructed a significant portion of Santa Fe. Mariana gazed at the magazine photograph of Leonardo, impeccably attired, amidst towering glass skyscrapers that proudly displayed his surname. It was challenging to align that portrayal with the fragile individual she had discovered in the alley. As she concluded her shift and began to stow her belongings in the locker, a man clad in a dark suit made his way toward her. "Miss Lopez? Mr. Santa Cruz wishes to meet with you." Mariana felt a flutter in her stomach. She had not anticipated their swift discovery, though for one possessing such immense power, perhaps it was something she ought to have predicted. "Convey to him that I value his enthusiasm, yet it isn't required," he replied, slamming his locker shut with excessive force. "Make sure to express your gratitude to him directly," the man persisted, extending a card adorned with the Construcciones Santa Cruz logo. "The vehicle is parked outside, ready and waiting." Mariana ultimately consented to enter the car, driven more by politeness than genuine enthusiasm. The sleek black Mercedes, its windows darkened, whisked her away to Angela's hospital, where Leonardo Santa Cruz awaited her in an exclusive suite on the uppermost floor. She discovered him perched in an armchair by the window, clad in a hospital gown that could not conceal his refined presence. Even with the pallor of his complexion, he commanded the space around him. "At last, we find ourselves in more favorable conditions," he remarked, attempting to rise, but a sharp pang forced him to shut his eyes firmly. "Please don't get up," Mariana replied, her voice steady and reassuring, reflecting her expertise in the field. "His injury requires a few more days of recuperation." Leonardo's smile lit up his otherwise serious expression. "You saved my life," he stated plainly, "and I want to repay you for that." Before Mariana had a chance to object, he retrieved an envelope from the table close by. "This is merely a humble expression of my appreciation." "I cannot accept this," she replied instantly, her gaze fixed elsewhere, avoiding the envelope entirely. "Anyone would have acted in the same way." "That's not true," he countered, observing her with interest. "Many of them might have overlooked me, or, even more troubling, they could have taken my watch and wallet." Mariana squirmed beneath his piercing stare. In his dark eyes, there lingered an unsettling blend of authority and vulnerability that left her feeling disconcerted. "Honestly, Mr. Santa Cruz, I have no need for any reward. I merely carried out my responsibilities as a health professional." Leonardo chuckled softly. "Just call me Leonardo, and allow me the pleasure of taking you to dinner once I'm out of here." "I don't believe that's suitable," she responded, instinctively retreating toward the door. "Why not?" he inquired, tilting his head ever so slightly. "Do I intimidate you?" "It's not fear," he replied with sincerity. "It's a measure of caution. Our realms are distinctly unique." "Perhaps," Leonardo conceded, not attempting to persuade her otherwise. "Yet, my feelings remain unchanged." Mariana chose to stay quiet. It was neither an elaborate declaration nor a desperate appeal, merely a straightforward admission. His sincerity unsettled her more than any other point made. "I must leave," he whispered, glancing back at the door. "We shall cross paths once more, Mariana Lopez," he proclaimed, his conviction sending a chill down her spine. Thus it came to be. In the weeks that followed, Leonardo devised methods to intersect her journey. Flowers delivered to the hospital, invitations to charitable gatherings, he even nonchalantly appeared at the cafeteria where she often enjoyed her lunch. With every meeting, the barrier that Mariana had established for herself grew increasingly harder to uphold. There was an intriguing quality about him, a blend of resolve and fragility, that was starting to dismantle his barriers, even as an inner voice cautioned him to remain vigilant. Leonardo found himself in his Polanco penthouse, once again sifting through the security footage from the night of the attack, seeking clarity in the familiar scenes. There was a discrepancy that couldn't be ignored. The assailant had been acutely aware of his whereabouts, familiar with his habits and patterns. "Sir, Ramirez," his security chief, interjected. "The recordings have been thoroughly examined. The assailant deactivated the alley cameras prior to the event. Is anyone here?" Leonardo whispered, rubbing his temples gently. "It must be someone familiar with our protocols." Meanwhile, Mariana grappled with her own uncertainties during her shift at the hospital. Leonardo's visits had grown more regular, and while a part of her felt a thrill at his presence, another part couldn't shake off a lingering sense of discomfort. "Is everything all right, doctor?" inquired one of her older patients, observing her preoccupation. "Indeed, Don Manuel, I was just pondering," she replied, adjusting the serum. Her mind drifted back to the previous evening, when Leonardo had extended an invitation for dinner at a prestigious restaurant. As he sat down for dinner, he observed the way certain diners regarded him, their expressions a blend of admiration and trepidation. Whispers at adjacent tables faded into silence as he walked by. What sort of influence did this man truly possess? Within the confines of his office, Leonardo was presented with a troubling report. "The market is experiencing a downturn," his financial advisor reported. "There are whispers of someone discreetly peddling substantial amounts." "Gabriel?" Leonardo inquired, his thoughts drifting to his uncle, who served on the board of directors. "While we can't verify it, the activity appears to originate from accounts associated with the company." Leonardo rose from his desk and made his way to the window. From that vantage point, he beheld the vast empire his family had constructed. Structures, retail hubs, housing projects. All that his father had bequeathed him now faced peril. His phone buzzed softly. A message arrived from Mariana. "I appreciate the dinner last night, but I believe we should have a conversation." There was an unsettling quality in the tone of the message. She had also observed something peculiar, or perhaps was merely creating space for herself. "Discover all there is to know about the Lopez family," he commanded Ramirez. "Particularly concerning his father. This story lingers in my mind, refusing to let me go." As Mariana wrapped up her shift at the hospital, she remained oblivious to the fact that her lingering doubts were on the verge of transforming into a startling truth that would upend all her preconceived notions. Destiny had woven their paths together in a manner neither could foresee, and the truths they yearned for lay hidden in a history that was on the verge of revelation. In the cozy living room of her apartment, Mariana gazed at a cherished photograph of her father. Miguel Lopez beamed at the camera, dressed in a modest suit, clutching a folder filled with documents. The photograph was captured just days prior to his vanishing, 15 years in the past. "Your father was a courageous soul," her Aunt Rosa had remarked that afternoon, after Mariana brought up the surname Santa Cruz. "Too brave for his own good." With quivering fingers, Mariana lifted the lid of the box her aunt had entrusted to her. Within, he discovered aged newspaper clippings, various documents, and an array of photographs. A headline piqued his interest. "A financial auditor raises concerns about discrepancies in construction projects in Santa Cruz. He vanishes days later." "It can't be," he murmured, as the fragments started to align. The reports outlined the situation involving Miguel Lopez, the chief accountant at Santa Cruz Construction, who had lodged a complaint regarding financial irregularities. A week passed, and then he just disappeared. The authorities wrapped up the investigation, determining that he had escaped abroad. "Your mother never bought that story," Rosa clarified over the phone, as Mariana reached out, feeling distressed. She had always understood that circumstances had compelled him to depart. The moment he submitted the complaint, the threats started to pour in. Mariana experienced a sudden tightness in her chest, as if the air around her had thickened, making it difficult to draw in a full breath. Leonardo's focus, his determination to see her. Did he realize her true identity from the start? His mobile device buzzed. A message had arrived from Leonardo. "We are having dinner this evening. I have something significant to share with you." The vision of the charismatic entrepreneur became blurred in his thoughts. What was his understanding of his father's fate? He belonged to the very group that had caused his vanishing. With unwavering resolve, she placed the documents into her bag. That evening, he would uncover the truths he sought. The establishment selected by Leonardo was nearly devoid of patrons. He sat at a secluded table, a smile lighting up his face as she walked in. Just as he was about to utter a word, Mariana set the clippings down on the table. "Are you familiar with Miguel Lopez?" he inquired, his voice quivering with barely contained fury. "Where did you obtain this?" "It was my father," she said, rising to her feet. "All this time, you knew who I was?" Leonardo gazed at her in silence, yet Mariana did not linger for further replies. He stepped back, sensing his breath slipping away. "I can't do this now," she whispered, her voice barely audible as she turned away, leaving the restaurant behind, disregarding Leonardo's calls echoing in the air. "Mariana, hold on." Leonardo made an effort to intervene. "It's not as you perceive it. I had just stepped into college when this occurred. There are things I remain unaware of." "What happened to my father?" She interrupted, tears of frustration streaming down her cheeks. "I swear I'll look into it," he promised, his voice imbued with a sincerity that only deepened her confusion. "Give me time to uncover the truth." Yet, Mariana was already turning away, leaving him in solitude with the shadows of his family's history and the painful realization that he had just forfeited the trust of the one person who truly counted. The clash at the restaurant had shattered Mariana. In the days that followed, she buried herself in her work, dodging Leonardo's persistent calls and messages, while the haunting questions about her father lingered in her mind. In his office on the 40th floor, Leonardo found himself in a troubling predicament. The documents Mariana had presented unveiled a disquieting reality about the empire he had come to possess. Countless nights were spent sifting through old files, desperately seeking answers. "I require all the company records from 2010, he instructed his assistant, particularly those pertaining to the accounting department. One afternoon, Mariana ultimately consented to meet him at a quiet cafe downtown. Leonardo arrived first, bearing dark circles beneath his eyes and a hefty folder tucked under his arm. "I've been conducting some research," he started as soon as she took a seat. "Your father uncovered a money laundering operation at the construction company." "But it wasn't me, Mariana. I was completely unaware of this until now." "Are you really asking me to trust that?" She replied, her voice trembling. "Your family ruined mine." "My uncle Gabriel," Leonardo went on, pulling documents from the folder. "He managed the finances at that time. I discovered some questionable transfers, all approved by him." Mariana grasped the papers with shaking hands. They were copies of million-dollar transfers to accounts in tax havens, all bearing the signature of Gabriel Santa Cruz. "Your father uncovered it," Leonardo clarified. "And when he threatened to report him, they made him disappear," Mariana finished, sensing the weight of the world pressing down on her. "I need your help," Leonardo urged, leaning closer to her. "Gabriel is still on the company board. Should we manage to establish his connection to your father's disappearance? What makes you trustworthy?" She interrupted, though her voice had softened somewhat. "Because someone tried to kill me in that alley," he responded, meeting her gaze directly. "And now I understand why." He began to pose uncomfortable inquiries regarding the company's past financials. A hush enveloped them as Mariana absorbed the details. The fragments were starting to align. The assault on Leonardo, the vanishing of his father, the influence that Gabriel Santa Cruz continued to wield within the company. "Yes, I will assist you," he ultimately replied. "This is for my father, not for you." Leonardo nodded, aware that he had forfeited her trust, yet he held on to the hope that it wouldn't be permanent. "That's all I ask. Together, we can uncover the truth." As they exited the cafe, neither of them caught sight of the figure observing them from a parked car, nor the message it conveyed. "Gabriel, we have a problem. Your nephew is conversing with Lopez's daughter." Leonardo dedicated the following week to delving into the company's files. Each document he uncovered unveiled deeper layers of the corruption his uncle had orchestrated. One afternoon, while sifting through a box of aged papers in the corporate basement, he stumbled upon something that sent a chill down his spine. A handwritten letter from Miguel Lopez read, if something happens to me, all the evidence is kept in safe deposit box 247 at the National Bank. Gabriel Santa Cruz is diverting millions to offshore accounts. I can no longer be part of this. With shaking hands, Leonardo pressed the buttons for Mariana's number. I must see you. I discovered something regarding your father. They encountered each other in a quaint cafe away from the bustling center. As Mariana perused the letter, tears started to stream down her face. This is his handwriting, he whispered, a chill running down my spine. I realized the peril I was in. I'm going to confront Gabriel, Leonardo declared, his fists tightening with determination. This has to end. The meeting with his uncle unfolded in the boardroom on the top floor. Gabriel Santa Cruz, a 60-year-old man with silver hair and an impeccable suit, remained silent as Leonardo laid out his findings. Are you aware of what you're doing? Gabriel finally responded, his voice chillingly detached. This empire was not constructed by adhering to the rules, Leonardo. Your father understood this and chose to ignore it. Where can I find Miguel Lopez? Leonardo insisted. Gabriel smirked condescendingly. Some secrets are best kept hidden, dear nephew. This is your final warning. Let this go or you may find yourself regretting it. Is this a threat? Is this what family advice looks like? Gabriel stood up and replied, echoing the same counsel I had offered to Lopez prior to his choice to embrace heroism. Leonardo's anger surged within him. You won't escape this time. I've already endured it for 15 years, Gabriel declared, making his way to the exit. You're not the first dreamer to attempt to make a difference, my dear nephew. Just consult Lopez. Oh, wait, you can't. When Leonardo shared the conversation with Mariana, a chill ran down her spine. There must be more evidence in that safe deposit box, he insisted. We need to get access to it. It's perilous, Leonardo cautioned. Gabriel isn't by himself in this. There are others entangled. My father risked everything for the truth, Mariana declared with unwavering resolve. I will not allow his sacrifice to be in vain. Unbeknownst to them, at that very moment, Gabriel Santa Cruz was placing a call that would alter the trajectory of their lives. Insure Box 247 is handled meticulously, leaving no loose ends this time. The days that followed were a torment for Leonardo. Council members, once allies of his father, started to steer clear of him in the corridors. Significant meetings were arranged without his awareness, and whispers regarding his emotional volatility started to spread throughout the organization. They have frozen the operating accounts, reported his reliable assistant, Patricia, one morning. Gabriel convened an emergency council meeting. They are doubting your capacity to steer the company. Leonardo loosened his tie, feeling a wave of anxiety. Who stands with him? Patricia replied, presenting a list that revealed nearly everyone. Only Ramirez and I remain loyal to you. Meanwhile, Mariana grappled with her own challenges at the hospital. A nurse had caught wind of her conversation with Leonardo, and now the whispers were circulating rapidly. Is it true that you're seeing Santa Cruz? Carmen inquired over lunch. Rumor has it he's losing grip on his company. It's not as they believe, Mariana replied, sidestepping the specifics. Yet, it became progressively challenging to keep my cool upon hearing Leonardo's name mentioned in the news. Later that evening, as Mariana sifted through files in her apartment, an anonymous call interrupted her focus. If you value your safety, steer clear of the Santa Cruzes, warned a voice, distorted and menacing. Your father was fortunate to only have to vanish. With shaking hands, he reached out to Leonardo. They're attempting to intimidate us, he remarked when she recounted the conversation. Gabriel understands that we are nearing the truth. But what will it cost us? She inquired, gazing at the aged photograph of her father. Is it worth jeopardizing everything? If we don't take a stand now, individuals like my uncle will continue to hold power, Leonardo replied. I can't accept that. The ensuing silence was thick with tension. They both understood they had reached a critical juncture. Adversaries closed in around them, and any misstep could lead to dire consequences. Tomorrow, I will visit the bank, Mariana ultimately resolved. We must uncover the contents of that safe. It's far too perilous, Leonardo argued. Allow Ramirez to handle it. He's my father, she asserted with conviction. I have to see this through. As they lingered, an unsettling sense of confinement enveloped them both, as if the walls were inching closer. In his office, Leonardo gazed at the city lights, contemplating how many of those structures had been erected with tainted wealth. Meanwhile, in her modest apartment, Mariana clutched her father's photograph, hoping to embody the same bravery he had displayed 15 years prior. The bomb detonated on a Tuesday morning. The leading newspapers in the country kicked off with a scandal that sent ripples through the Mexican business community. Leonardo Santa Cruz, the dubious heir. Documents have surfaced, exposing his misappropriation of funds during his tenure. Leonardo learned of this from Patricia, who stormed into his office, newspapers in hand. The documents that came to light suggested he had been siphoning off company funds for years. It was all a fabrication, crafted with precision. Gabriel leaked this, Leonardo exclaimed, slamming his fist on the desk in exasperation. However, I find it perplexing how my signature ended up on these documents. Excuse me, sir. Ramirez burst in, urgency in his voice. The police are in the lobby. They have an investigation order. At the hospital, Mariana sat in front of the television, her heart weighed down by the unfolding events. The screen displayed Leonardo exiting the company, encircled by a throng of journalists and flashing cameras. Your boyfriend is a thief, a classmate remarked with a sneer. Just like all the wealthy folks. Mariana tightened her fists, holding back her fury. She was aware of the reality, yet she found herself unable to protect him without revealing her own vulnerabilities. That afternoon, as the police combed through the Santa Cruz construction offices, Mariana received a message from an unfamiliar number. It contained an old photograph. His father beamed, standing beside a young Leonardo at what appeared to be a company celebration. Why didn't you ever mention that you knew him? He penned a message to Leonardo. The response arrived hours later. This photo brought back memories I had forgotten. He was so young, just starting out. Your father always showed me kindness. In his grand estate in Las Lomas, Gabriel Santa Cruz reveled in his early triumph alongside fellow council members. Leonardo is done for, he proclaimed, lifting his glass high. The company will revert to more skilled hands. Little did I know that Leonardo had a clever plan in motion. For months, he had been meticulously collecting information, all leading to this pivotal moment. The signatures are fake, he revealed to Mariana during their meeting at a quiet cafe. I can give it a shot, but I require some time. What makes you think I should trust you at this point? She inquired, revealing the photograph. You kept it from me that you were aware of my father. I'm battling the same demons he confronted, Leonardo said, his gaze filled with unwavering resolve. And I know, despite everything, that you too seek justice. Mariana observed him quietly, recalling her father's expression in that final photograph before he vanished. The unwavering resolve, the unmistakable spark in his gaze. I'll assist you, he declared at last. Yet this time, devoid of any hidden truths. As they exited the cafe, Gabriel was handed another report. Safe deposit box 247 had been accessed that morning. The countdown had started. Safe 247 held precisely what Miguel Lopez had assured. A USB flash drive and a yellow envelope brimming with documents. Mariana scrutinized them with quivering hands in the bank's cramped cubicle. These are all records of illegal transactions, he whispered, flipping through the pages. My father meticulously documented everything, yet there was something deeper. A handwritten letter meant for her lay nestled within. Dear Mariana, if you are reading this, it signifies that at last, someone is in pursuit of the truth. They did not take my life, instead, they presented me with a choice. Vanish or bear witness to the suffering of my family as a result. I made the decision to shield you. The paper quivered in Mariana's grasp as she flipped the page, yearning to uncover the address. Yet, it was nowhere to be found. I cannot disclose my location. There are still too many searching for me. However, if it is truly you seeking me, the answer lies in the place where everything started. Tears clouded his sight. His father was still here. All this time, he had been here. Leonardo reached the bank shortly after, noticing Mariana still reeling from the revelation. We have to ensure his safety, she urged, presenting the letter to him. If Gabriel learns he's in Veracruz, my men will be here in no time, Leonardo replied, swiftly pulling out his phone to call Ramirez. But we must move swiftly. In the Santa Cruz construction offices, Gabriel received the news he dreaded. The box had been opened, and its contents had been retrieved. Locate Lopez, he bellowed into the phone. It must be nearby. Yet, the hour was late. Leonardo's security team was already en route to Veracruz, tracing the hints embedded in the letter. The address pointed to a quaint bookstore nestled in the historic heart of the city. Manuel Rodriguez? Inquired one of the guards as they stepped inside. The figure at the counter glanced up from his reading. His hair had turned entirely white, and his face was etched with deep wrinkles. Yet, her eyes remained unchanged, mirroring those in the photograph that Mariana had treasured for 15 years. My daughter, Miguel started, his voice trembling. All right. He's on his way, the guard responded. We need to get him out of here immediately. As the security team escorted Miguel to safety, Leonardo handed over the documents discovered in the box to the authorities. The evidence was undeniable. Years filled with deceit, financial manipulation, and intimidation, all orchestrated by Gabriel Santa Cruz. Your father was right, Leonardo conveyed to Mariana over the phone. The documents hold the answer. Gabriel won't be able to escape this time. At that moment, Mariana was journeying towards Veracruz, her heart racing with a blend of fear and hope. After 15 long years, he would finally reunite with his father once more. The long-awaited reunion between Mariana and her father was postponed. Gabriel Santa Cruz had summoned an emergency meeting of the board of directors for the following morning, with one crucial item on the agenda, the dismissal of Leonardo as CEO. You can't let them win, Mariana said over the phone, as the helicopter carrying her father to safety lifted off from Veracruz. My father kept those tests for a reason. Leonardo straightened his tie in front of the mirror in his office. I understand, and I will complete what he began. The meeting room buzzed with energy as Leonardo stepped inside. Gabriel occupied the head of the table, flanked by the council's most esteemed members. Everyone averted their eyes. Nephew, Gabriel started, his smile chilling. Given the recent scandals, the council believes that, before proceeding, Leonardo cut in. I wish to submit certain documents. He displayed the records discovered in the safe on the screen. Transfers of millions, bribes, threats, each one carefully chronicled by Miguel Lopez. This is a forgery, Gabriel insisted, though his voice lacked the conviction it once held. The prosecutor's office disagrees, Leonardo replied. But naturally, that doesn't concern you, since you still have judges and politicians under your control, correct? Leonardo let out a dry laugh. You still don't grasp how this game operates. You might have evidence, but I assure you, that evidence will vanish before it ever sees the inside of a courtroom. The stillness that ensued was palpable. The council members cast anxious looks at one another, cognizant that several of them were referenced in those documents. Are you truly willing to keep shielding a wrongdoer? Leonardo inquired, glancing at everyone present. Or would you rather stand on the right side of history? Gabriel rose, seething with anger. I refuse to allow some naive fool to ruin everything we've created. What they constructed. Leonardo exclaimed. They erected it on deceit and suffering. They shattered lives like that of Miguel Lopez. The utterance of that name stirred whispers among the attendees. Numerous individuals recalled the vanished accountant. Gentlemen, Leonardo proceeded, you have two choices. Assist in the restoration of this company or confront the legal repercussions alongside my uncle. One by one, the council members shifted their votes. Gabriel observed, powerless, as his empire disintegrated. This isn't over, he threatened, making his way to the door. You're mistaken, my friend, Leonardo replied. It has just concluded. As dawn broke, the city was bathed in the gentle glow of the sun's first rays. In a moment of profound reunion, Miguel Lopez embraced his daughter after a long 15 years apart. Meanwhile, within the walls of the Santa Cruz construction offices, a new chapter was set to unfold. The safe house on the outskirts of town was unassuming yet fortified. Mariana observed her father resting on the couch, still grappling with the reality of having him back. Miguel Lopez bore the marks of time more than ever. The stark white hair and pronounced wrinkles bore testament to the long years spent in exile. I never stopped thinking about you, he had confessed, tears streaming down his face during their long-awaited reunion. Each birthday, each Christmas, a message from Leonardo would break through the silence of his thoughts. Gabriel has vanished. The authorities are on his trail. Your father is secure. Mariana gazed through the window, observing the two security guards making their rounds. Indeed, Ramirez's men have arrived. What transpired at the board? I have total control now. The council is cooperating with the investigation. Miguel stirred awake, momentarily confused before the surroundings came into focus. Leonardo? She inquired, gesturing towards her daughter's phone. Yes, she replied. We won, Dad. The company is clean now. Miguel shook his head. It's not that straightforward, my dear. Gabriel has connections all over. Influential individuals who wish to keep the truth hidden. Just as if to validate his statement, Ramirez rushed into the room. Miss Lopez, we've noticed unusual activity on the perimeter. We need to relocate them. To where? Mariana inquired, assisting her father to his feet. Leonardo has a spot ready. A hacienda in Cuernavaca, shrouded in secrecy. As they gathered their meager belongings, Mariana's gaze fell upon her father, who was tenderly safeguarding a weathered notebook. What is that? The true motive behind Gabriel's desire to silence me, Miguel replied. It's not merely the construction company's records. There's something more significant at play. A web entangling politicians and judges. The screech of tires cut through the air, halting their discussion. Ramirez urged them toward the rear exit as the first gunshots rang out. Hurry to the car. One of the guards exclaimed. As the armored vehicle raced into the distance, Mariana clutched her father's hand with a fierce grip. He had reclaimed his family, yet the peril still loomed large. Meanwhile, in his office, Leonardo absorbed the shocking news of the assault. They are safe, Ramirez reported by phone. However, this confirms that Gabriel still possesses resources. Leonardo gazed out at the city through his window, fully aware that the true battle was only just beginning. Ensure their safety, he commanded. I'm heading there. The hacienda in Cuernavaca stood as a relic of the ancient Mexican elite, encircled by towering walls and verdant gardens. Miguel Lopez gazed at the mountains from the terrace, inhaling the fresh air for the first time in years, free from the relentless fear that had shadowed him throughout his exile. The doctor is on his way, Mariana declared as she stepped onto the terrace. The years of strain and uncertainty had deeply affected his father's health. Leonardo insists on your checkup. Miguel offered a faint smile. The boy has transformed, I recall him from the offices. So young, so unlike his family. Why didn't you ever mention that you knew him? Because at that time, I was merely a practitioner, unaware of all that was unfolding. When I uncovered the corruption, I chose not to bring him into it. His uncle, Gabriel, was a man of unpredictable actions, even when it came to family. The whir of a helicopter cut through the air, signaling Leonardo's arrival as he touched down in the backyard, a briefcase brimming with documents in hand. "Mr. Lopez," he greeted, clearly anxious. I have been going over all the documentation he provided. It has surpassed our worst expectations. Miguel nodded solemnly. The construction company was merely the surface of a much deeper issue. Gabriel had constructed a vast empire founded on corruption, illicit financial dealings, and coercion. Politicians, judges, businessmen, everyone is entangled in this web. That's why they haven't uncovered the truth, Mariana interjected. He has far too many people shielding him. Leonardo laid the documents out on the terrace table. But now we have evidence. With your testimony, Mr. Lopez, we can take down the whole operation. Miguel erupted in a fit of coughs, causing concern to wash over Mariana. Dad, you really need to take a break. I can't afford to rest, he answered, struggling to regain his breath. I have held on to these secrets for 15 years. It's time for the truth to emerge. But not today, Mariana urged, assisting him to his feet. First, you must reclaim your health. Leonardo observed the exchange, feeling a blend of admiration and guilt. This family had been shattered by the ambition of their own kin. I assure you, this will not go unpunished, he declared, tucking the documents away. The company will undergo a thorough cleansing. Miguel paused at the terrace door. Exercise caution, young man. Gabriel isn't your sole adversary. There exist formidable individuals who will go to great lengths to protect their hidden truths. As the father and daughter settled into the warmth of their home, Leonardo lingered on the terrace, lost in thought as the sun dipped below the horizon. The struggle for the truth was only starting, and the cost might exceed his wildest fears. His return to the Santa Cruz construction headquarters signaled the dawn of a new chapter. With a blend of apprehension and optimism, employees observed him stride through the corridors, accompanied by a group of external auditors. I require a thorough examination of every document, every transaction, every contract, he commanded at the initial general meeting. From this moment on, this company will function with complete transparency, Leonardo announced to the gathered executives. A heavy silence hung in the air until one of the senior managers broke it. That's easy for you to say, Mr. Santa Cruz, he remarked, a cynical smile playing on his lips. But when our government contracts begin to vanish, will you shoulder the losses as well? Leonardo folded his arms, a determined look on his face. I'd prefer to take a financial hit than compromise our integrity. The cleaning process was harsh. Long-time executives at the company were dismissed upon the revelation of their participation in unlawful activities. The cancellation of fraudulent contracts resulted in significant, albeit unavoidable, financial losses. The shares have dropped by 30%, Patricia informed him, presenting the financial reports. Investors are anxious. Let them be anxious, Leonardo responded. I favor a more compact yet more refined company. During a momentous press conference, Leonardo unveiled the extensive corruption that had plagued his uncle's reign. With Miguel Lopez joining via video conference from a secure location, the truth emerged at last. My uncle Gabriel Santa Cruz not only deceived this company, he stated before a multitude of journalists. A criminal empire was constructed, wreaking havoc on innocent lives. Today, we unveil a compensation fund for all those affected. The revelations have sent shockwaves through the Mexican business landscape. A number of executives from various construction firms quickly stepped down. Prominent judges started requesting indefinite leaves. Politicians withdrew from public engagements. They're frightened, Mariana remarked that evening as they dined at the hacienda. They realize my father possesses proof against each of them. Miguel, gradually healing under medical attention, nodded in agreement. Gabriel found himself at the heart of a tangled web of deceit. When I go down, they'll all go down with me. If we uncover it, Leonardo chimed in. As the days go by, the noose tightens around him. That very night, a revelation arrived. An unmarked envelope found its way to the company reception. Within, a solitary photograph. Gabriel Santa Cruz, weary yet grinning, clutching a current newspaper. On the reverse, a note. They cannot hinder our creation. This transcends each of us. Leonardo sent the image to Mariana through a secure message. He is not a threat to us, he penned. He's merely flaunting. He thinks his web of connections is too strong to collapse. You're mistaken, she responded. It lacks the influence it once held. It's only a matter of time. In his office, Leonardo gazed out at the glowing cityscape. The legacy his father had entrusted to him was evolving into something fresh, something improved. The price had been steep, yet at last, the truth was prevailing over years of deceit and corruption. Miguel Lopez's recovery was unfolding gradually at the Cuernavaca ranch. Medical professionals had determined that years of stress and instability had taken a toll on his heart, yet with appropriate treatment and a serene environment, he was starting to exhibit signs of progress. Mariana balanced her time between tending to her father and her responsibilities at the hospital, where she had resumed her duties to some extent. The afternoons unfolded at the farm, where the echoes of his father's tales about the lost years filled the air, gradually piecing together the mystery of their separation. Every day I thought about returning, Miguel admitted one afternoon, but the fear that they would harm you outweighed my longing to see you. Leonardo made frequent visits to the hacienda, sharing updates on the company's evolution and the ongoing quest for Gabriel. During these visits, Mariana realized that her presence had evolved into something deeper than just a partnership against corruption. One evening, as they enjoyed a serene dinner on the terrace, Miguel took note of the subtle exchanges between his daughter and Leonardo, the fleeting glances, the quiet smiles. You know. Miguel interjected unexpectedly, your mother and I met under similarly complicated circumstances. Mariana felt a warmth rise to her cheeks as Leonardo focused intently on his meal. Love often flourishes in the most surprising corners, Miguel remarked, and at times, we must weather the storm to discover tranquility. Dad, Mariana started, but Miguel gestured for her to pause. I've witnessed Leonardo's struggle to uphold what is right, even when it meant sacrificing for his own family. He has shown himself to be unlike the Santa Cruzes I once knew. Leonardo glanced up, locking eyes with Miguel. Mr. Lopez, there's no need for explanations, Miguel interjected with a weary smile, just promise me you'll look after her better than I ever could. That evening, amidst the lush greenery of the hacienda's garden, Leonardo and Mariana finally lowered the walls they had built around their hearts. I was so afraid to trust, Mariana confessed, as they strolled beneath the twinkling stars. After all that transpired, I understand, Leonardo replied, gently grasping her hand, I too feared becoming like them, of not measuring up. You are more than enough, she whispered, drawing closer, you are precisely who we needed you to be. The kiss that ensued was gentle, brimming with promise and hope. On the terrace, Miguel observed the moment with tears in his eyes, thankful that his daughter had discovered not only love but also the justice they had longed for. Leonardo had envisioned countless intricate scenarios to propose to Mariana, yet when the moment arrived, it unfolded in the simplest manner. One evening, as they dined in their apartment's kitchen, amidst case files and Chinese takeout, he unexpectedly declared, "Marry me," interrupting their discussion about the latest updates in the search for Gabriel. Mariana let her chopstick slip from her fingers, taken aback not merely by the proposal, but by the undeniable rightness of the moment. Is it really that simple? She inquired, a smile beginning to bloom on her face. Absolutely, he affirmed, no flashy rings or lavish dinners, just the two of us, authentically ourselves. Miguel, having relocated to a cozy apartment close to Mariana's after regaining his health, embraced the news with tears of joy. Your mother would be so proud, she said, wrapping her arms around her daughter, of the woman you have become, of the battles you have fought. The wedding was envisioned as a heartfelt gathering, a stark contrast to the corporate world that had inflicted so much pain on both families. They decided to commemorate the occasion in the garden of the hacienda in Cuernavaca, the very place where their journey had truly commenced. The evening prior to the ceremony, Leonardo received a call. Gabriel had been found in Argentina. Authorities were already en route to apprehend him. Should we delay the wedding? Mariana inquired upon hearing the news. No, Leonardo responded with conviction, we have already granted him too much influence over our lives. Tomorrow marks our moment. The ceremony, though modest, held great meaning. Miguel, more robust and vibrant than ever, entrusted his daughter at the makeshift altar beneath the jacaranda tree. Patricia, Ramirez, and the few loyal friends who stood by him during the crisis were the sole witnesses. I vow to love you and protect you, Leonardo declared in his vows, not from power or privilege, but from the truth and justice we create together. I vow to stand by your side, Mariana replied, in the struggle for what is right and in forging a brighter future. As the rings were exchanged, a shocking announcement broke through the moment. Gabriel Santa Cruz had been taken into custody. The vast network of corruption he had meticulously constructed was on the brink of unraveling. For Leonardo and Mariana, that news held little significance. Their true triumph lay not in Gabriel's downfall, but in the love that had flourished amidst the debris of deception, a love rooted in honesty and bravery. Miguel observed the couple as they shared their inaugural dance as partners, his heart finally at ease after 15 long years. Justice had come to pass. Yet, even more significant was the victory of love over fear. Half a year post-wedding, life had embraced a fresh cadence. Under Leonardo's guidance, the Santa Cruz company transformed into a beacon of corporate transparency. Construction projects now embraced social and environmental initiatives, reshaping not just the company's reputation but also its influence on the community. Meanwhile, Mariana persisted in her role at the hospital, turning down invitations to enter the family business. My vocation is to help people directly, he explained when asked. However, he had established a foundation with part of the compensation the company had paid to his family, dedicated to assisting victims of corporate corruption. Miguel, nearly fully recovered, divided his time between supporting his daughter's foundation and penning his memoirs. His book, 15 Years of Silence, stands as a vital account for grasping and addressing systemic corruption in Mexico. Gabriel Santa Cruz received a 30-year prison sentence. His network of corruption collapsed, dragging down numerous corrupt businessmen, politicians, and judges along with it. It marked the conclusion of a long-standing period of unchecked behavior. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, Leonardo and Mariana strolled through the familiar streets where their journey had commenced. The alley that had witnessed their first encounter had been reimagined as a quaint park, a result of the urban revitalization efforts by the new construction firm, Santa Cruz. Did you ever envision that we would find ourselves in this situation? Mariana inquired, her gaze fixed on the children swinging joyfully. Never, Leonardo replied with a warm smile, gently squeezing her hand. But now, I can't envision my life unfolding in any other manner. Miguel awaited their arrival at home for Sunday dinner, a cherished tradition they had embraced since his recovery. Discussions had shifted from conspiracies and threats to aspirations for the future, rekindled hopes and dreams. Life is not a fairy tale, Miguel often remarked, but sometimes, if we fight hard enough for what is right, it grants us happy endings. Leonardo and Mariana understood the truth of his words. Their love had emerged from chaos, strengthened through challenges, and flourished in honesty. It was not the stuff of fairy tales, but something profound and genuine, a bond forged from past wounds and unwavering commitments. As the sun dipped below the horizon in Mexico City, the couple strolled home, fingers intertwined. The burdens of the past had dissipated, making way for a future that, while not flawless, belonged entirely to him. The city, a witness to its own saga, maintained its unyielding rhythm, yet within its bustling avenues, a love story emerged, demonstrating that justice, truth, and love could prevail against the forces of greed and corruption. A tale that, akin to countless others in this vibrant metropolis, commenced in shadows yet ultimately emerged into brilliance. Have you been enchanted by this narrative of affection, fairness, and salvation in the core of Mexico City? If the conflict between Mariana and Leonardo held you in suspense and Miguel Lopez's quest for truth resonated with you, don't hesitate to share this video with your loved ones. Your support enables us to keep crafting content that intertwines romance with significant societal themes. If you're seeking narratives that provoke thought about love's strength amid challenges, consider subscribing to our channel. Also, share in the comments where you're experiencing this captivating Mexican tale from. We're eager to learn how this story connects with audiences across the globe.